Washington mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. At AM 630. WMAL.
7:07 on WMAL. Brian Wilson, Brian Neiman. It's Brian, and we're joined by Byron.
Right.
Byron York from the Washington Examiner is standing by. Hey, Byron, how are you?
Good morning, guys. Great to be here.
Well, there's a lot we want to talk to you about. We want to talk about the story you did regarding voter ID, but I want to get to the Joe Biden matter. Okay, so Joe Biden's out on the campaign trail. He tells a racially mixed crowd that they're going to put you back in chains. He says that we can win in North Carolina when he's in Virginia. He mocked the sign interpreter that was there. He referred to Congressman Ryan as Governor Ryan, and then he apparently doesn't know what century he's in. So, look. Everybody says, well, it's just Joe being Joe. That's Joe. That's what you get with Joe. We all know that about Joe. But is it reaching the point where Biden has become something of a liability to the president?
Well, first of all, it's not too late for the president to change running mates if he wants to. There's no doubt about that. But remember back to when Barack Obama chose Joe Biden. It was because Obama was young. He had only served a couple of years in the Senate, didn't have a lot of experience. So, Joe Biden was the wiser, older, more experienced man, and he's just been sticking his foot in his mouth left and right. And the question is, when does this become kind of a serious embarrassment to the president? Think back to Mitt Romney's trip to Israel and Poland and England, and in that last leg of the trip in Poland, when reporters were so frustrated, they were screaming, "What about the gaffes? What about the gaffes?" I mean, are people going to start, are reporters going to start trailing Joe Biden and start yelling, "What about your gaffes?"
And then Joe Biden will give you an answer. You want some more?
Good response.
But I mean, at some point, I asked this question gingerly, and at some point, does it enter the voter's mind that the man who is one heartbeat away from the presidency may not be, quite as sharp as we thought he was?
Well, we're having this huge debate now over Paul Ryan and over Paul Ryan's plan and Medicare and all of that stuff. And a lot of commentators will say, yeah, this is all very interesting and worth talking about, but voters don't make their decision on the vice president. And if that's true for Ryan, it's true for Obama-Biden. But it's not good for the president. We know that the president said that, what was it? I think the phrasing of Joe Biden's statements has not been very good lately. It's been a bit of a distraction. He was referring to the "put y'all in chains" remark that he made the other day. So, look, the president notices what's going on.
We're talking with Byron York, chief political correspondent of the Washington Examiner. He wrote a piece yesterday taking a Washington Post poll and a survey about how people feel about voter ID, and the results were amazing. First of all, I mean, when I read it from your link, the Washington Post asked this question back in the middle of July, but it didn't really get published until yesterday or until a couple of days ago.
Well, sometimes they save pieces of polls to be published later. I'm not viewing that as anything untoward. And a lot of times in a poll that gets a lot of publicity because what it says about the horse race or what it says about the vice presidential choice, they also ask a lot of other questions. In this case, they asked a very simple question. In your view, should voters in the United States be required to show official government-issued photo ID, such as a driver's license, when they cast ballots on Election Day, or shouldn't they have to do this? The results were really astonishing. 74% of all adults support voter ID, 23% oppose it. Among just registered voters, it's 75%. So you have that issue in which the Supreme Court has already ruled 6-3 in favor, declaring an Indiana voter ID law constitutional, and 75% of the public support it. And now you have the Obama Justice Department, led by the Attorney General, Eric Holder, continuing to try to stop these voter ID laws wherever they can.
And the number was 60% of Democrats were in favor of having it.
It's unbelievable. You look, the support is huge all across every line you want to figure out. 88% of Republicans, 60% of Democrats, and President Obama, 76% of independents support it. Cut it by racial lines. 78% of white people support it. 65% of black people support it. 64% of Hispanics support it. You look at the age groups, it's over 70% among everybody. Income groups, educational groups. I mean,
all right. So what do you?
Voter ID is far and wide.
What do you think? What is the reason why the Justice Department and Eric Holder are fighting these laws? If the if the Supreme Court has upheld them, this poll may be new to them. But if there's overwhelming support for it, what is the reason behind it? I mean, they say it's a poll tax, and most Americans don't think it's a poll tax at this point.
Well, I think when people do things, especially when they put stuff on the line, to do them, you have to first consider that they really believe this. And I think that Eric Holder and the president do share this opinion that voter ID laws will suppress turnout among the poor or minorities or people in general who don't have a government-issued ID. I think they really believe it. But, of course, what they really believe also works to their partisan advantage. And clearly Democrats are the ones who were opposing this. As a matter of fact, the only group in the poll who did not have majority support for voter ID were people who identified themselves as liberal Democrats, not just Democrats, but liberal Democrats, and 48% of them support voter ID.
Wow. So I'm looking at the polls, and I've been one of these who said, nothing much is moving the needle, but I'm beginning to get the sense that perhaps there is a Ryan bump and that the needle is moving a small amount. What's your sense of it?
Well, I think this new poll that came out by a group called Purple Strategies, which is run by the Democrat Steve McMahon and the Republican Alex Castellanos, showed Mitt Romney actually ahead in some of the
I got it right here. It was ahead in Ohio, Florida, and Virginia, but behind in Colorado.
Right. Well, those Ohio, Florida, and Virginia are three must-wins for Mitt Romney, in which polling had shown Barack Obama up by a little bit. On the other hand, if you look at the Real Clear Politics average of polls, which I view as the most accurate picture of where things are right now, Barack Obama is still a few points ahead. But I think anybody who says the race is not essentially tied at this moment doesn't mean it's going to be tied on November 2nd, but right now I think it's tied.
I'll ask the question that we always ask, because Brian Neiman and I have a disagreement about how this is going to go. He thinks landslide.
Well, I say comfortable win
for Romney, and I'm among those who say, I think it could be like 2000, where one candidate wins the popular vote and one candidate wins the Electoral College vote.
Well, there's no historical precedent to prove either of you guys right. Maybe or you could say it another way. There's historical precedent to prove both of you guys right. I will say inside the Romney campaign, they have a firm belief that if you get to Election Day and President Obama is still in a 47 to 48% range, then Romney wins, because they believe that the late deciders will go toward Romney. And that's a risky belief in the sense that you don't know you're right until Election
But Byron,
Day.
let me ask you a question about that. I mean, I have a lot of respect for your judgment on this thing, and I really want to know what you think. Would you agree that in this particular election cycle, people have locked in pretty early and pretty hard?
I agree with that, and also the economic conditions that I believe will be the major determiner of people's votes. Do not look like they're going to change between now and Election Day, and they haven't changed in quite a while. So we've got a 8+% unemployment situation that looks to be just sort of in place through Election Day. So you think if someone supports Barack Obama now with this unemployment level, that they've kind of factored that into their vote. So I have to say, maybe I should just say, Brian, I'm with you.
That's a great answer. Thanks, Byron. As always, we appreciate it.
Good stuff, Byron.